Hello, my name is Rytis and welcome again to my vinyl collection. In previous episode we talked about some different bands who played in legendary punk club in New York, CBGB. And today as well we have a bunch of vinyls to talk about, some local bands, important bands who were important to the club. And as it is summertime, I think we should talk about some Californian punk rock scene which were frequent guests in the club. And I have a few iconic grunge albums, which was a continuation of the genre in the 90s, like a spin-off. So, okay, let's get started. And today we are going to start with something you can call a wild card in this list. It is not a punk band, it is a hard rock band. It was never meant to be a punk rock band. You may find it surprising that they played in the venue. So, acdc. This is quite interesting story. They played CBGB in 1977. They actually played a bigger venue in New York that night. They were opening for the Dictators, maybe for 4,000 people, and they went to CBGB unexpectedly to the management of CBGB. It was kind of plug and play. They just came and they got the spot to play. It was just after Let There Be Rock album. Of course I have more acdc albums in my collection, but this was the one that they were touring with. So they just came to the club, and as the legend says, Bon Scott met a head of Atlantic Records outside while pissing in a jar. And when they did the show, people said that Angus Young, he just went off stage while playing, went outside still playing, and came back. So even they are not a punk rock band, attitude was there, and I think it must have been really great show, and the story is very interesting. So acdc. And now we are going to talk about some important local bands, and it is badbrains, a very influential band who played in New York. Actually, they were from Washington, DC, but when they moved to New York, that's when things really got serious. So it is very influential band. When punk rock started to go a little bit lazy, they actually put it on the next level. It is more intense. It is usually mentioned as a beginning of hardcore punk, and it is true. And what you would not expect, you see those colors, because they are Rasta band. These things, I don't know how they go along, but they do. One track is a Pay to Come, and the other is I Love Ja. This album is really fantastic. It is very fast, it is very wild, it is intense. It is really interesting. It does sound bad in production, but it still gives a lot of beauty to it. The funny thing that from time to time they give a dub track. Which reduces the intensity, and they just start all over again with fast songs, and they give some dub again. If you are seeking for the best punk albums list, it's no-brainer to listen to it, and it is one of the most influential punk bands and hardcore punk bands, so don't miss it. Just look at this, beautiful. So we have another local band here. It is called Plasmatics. It also has some interesting story. This band is fronted by a very expressive girl, Wendy Williams. So interesting story about Wendy Williams is that before the band she was doing live sex shows in New York, which was thing in New York at the time, and then she starred in a porn movie, and then she fronted the Plasmatics, a punk rock band which me personally, I don't really dig it too much. The attitude of Wendy is really great. She's very expressive. She has very unpolished vocals, which is good for the genre. But the music, especially this album, it's one of the more popular ones. I think it's too hard rockish sound. I wouldn't say the compositions are too good. It's not bad. And the lyrics are quite weak, although there are some tracks that I really like. One was Hitman. Unfortunately, Wendy Williams had some troubles, and in the end of 90s she committed suicide, and that is the sad ending of the story, and all we have left is this piece of punk rock history here. Okay, so if you Google CBGB bands that were important for the club, you will definitely find Joan Jett in the list. She's well-known new wave and hard rock artist, and this is her best album. Joan Jett and the Blackhearts played in CBGB just after this album, which is I Love Rock and Roll, and you probably know the track. It is usually all over the radio, and it's really not my favorite track. Talking about favorite tracks from Joan Jett, she actually was more punkish in the Bad Reputation years. And this one is actually labeled as hard rock. I would say it's a very commercial hard rock. It's something that you could dance to in your prom night. It has some moments, but I think it was overproduced, because if you Google Joan Jett, you will see that she is very rock and roll. But despite my personal opinion, it is iconic record. I have a lot of respect for Joan Jett, and she is rock and roll. She is cool. So now we go to the Californian punk rock bands from early 90s, which was a thing. It is also sometimes called pop punk or skate punk because it was popular among the skateboarders. One of the most famous bands that you already know is Offspring. I have more Offspring albums, but these three are most important for me. This one is something if you want some raw experience from the Offspring. It is not so polished. But it wasn't the most popular album either. But I love this album. It's a very great album. This is their most successful album commercially, and it's probably one of the most successful albums in the genre. And it's really worth it because it is packed with hit after hit, and the whole album is untouchable. It's not that poppy as the later albums of Offspring. Songs like Come Out and Play, Self-Esteem, Gotta Get Away, Bad Habit, I just don't know really what to say more. It's a best Offspring album. There's no discussion about that. And you might think why the Smash is the most successful album if everyone knows Offspring for the pop hit Pretty Fly for a White Guy, which was on Americana. It was actually my first Offspring album, but I had it on CD and it was pirate CD. And that is the reason why it is not sold so well, because Napster was becoming a big thing in the United States. It is internet piracy services which made Pretty Fly one of the most downloaded songs pirate way. So it might have been the most commercially successful album, but the times were cruel Let me tell you, this Pretty Fly is awful song, and another hit song, Why Don't You Get a Job, that you probably know as well, is also not the best track from Offspring. Everything else on the album is quite good. And I have to mention, it has good production. It really sounds as good today as it sounded then. One interesting off-topic fact about the band is that vocalist Dexter is a PhD in molecular biology. He has IQ of 145, which is a lot. If you don't know what that means, it's a genius level. And other important person in the band is guitar player Noodles. He was janitor before the band, but he is genius in music making as we know today. Maybe the most important skate punk band from California is Badreligion, and this is not their most commercially successful album, but I consider it the best Badreligion album. I think this one is really a masterpiece. If the metalheads has Slayer's Rain in Blood, I think it's the same in skate punk. It is half an hour experience of full packed punk rock.
So many theories, so many prophecies. What we do need is a change of ideas.
It has a lot of great riffs. Song after song.
But I've got it melded into an inharmonic whole, to an inharmonic whole.
Every song is great. Fantastic melodies.
And when the fun is getting fucked, you'll be there without a thought. And eternity, my friend, is a long fucking time.
In that half an hour, it gives you experience that you will not forget. It catches you on the beginning of the album and that doesn't let you go until the very end of the album. I got this original edition for 15 euros, which is ridiculous price for it. And another interesting off-topic fact about Greg Graffin, the vocalist of Badreligion, he is also a PhD in zoology, and he writes books about evolution and religion and stuff. Pennywise. It is also a skate punk band from California. They were not that big as Offspring or Green Day or maybe even Badreligion. I think it's because Pennywise doesn't have very unique frontman, and it never caught my ear, so I just bought this record and tried again. It's best-selling album from the band and it's great. What I liked about this band, comparing to the other bands of the genre, it has more heavy riffs. I got my way of life, then I won't back down or apologize. The guitars are more heavy, more crunchy. It's like a heavy version of Badreligion maybe. And it has a lot of good songs on it. I will try other albums as well after this one. I am happy to have listened to this band. Green Day. When me personally I got into rock music, it was about 2000s. It was the time when Green Day released their American Idiot album, which is the most poppy album. So I always consider it Green Day as a rock band for girls, like Nickelback.
Wake me up when September ends.
American Idiot album was really awful, and it is awful today. I don't change my opinion about it. It gave me wrong perception about Green Day because their best album is Dookie. It is album from '94.
Welcome to paradise.
Very well made. The bass parts are really great. The drum parts are fantastic. It has irony, humor in it is great. If you want to give Green Day another chance, it is the album that you should try. It is one of those flawless pop punk albums. So I changed my opinion about Green Day, and this album changed it. The album artwork is funny. When I got the album, I just realized that there was some references like Black Sabbath woman on the cover, and you can see Patti Smith in the window that we talked about in the previous episode, and you have Angus Young from acdc here, and maybe some other references that I don't know, but it's funny. And I would also want to mention the last album. The new album from Green Day is also very good. I think it's the best album since Dookie. It has 5 or 6 singles which are deserved to be singles.
The American dream is killing me. The American dream is killing me.
And the deep tracks are also good.
I got a buzz like a murder hornet. I take my media and turn it into vomit.
It really surprised me. I think it surprised the critics as well, because the band who plays for such a long time usually don't make that great albums. So it is really a worthy album to stand besides Dookie. I just won this at a radio show together with this t-shirt, but I would still have bought it because it's really good. Another wave, if you could call it, of punk rock is grunge music. It comes from Seattle. It's darker, heavier, more emotional version of rock that was a big thing in the 90s. What I have today is a few albums from grunge era, and one of the most important ones is Pearl Jam's 10. It is the first album from Pearl Jam, and it is 13 times platinum. I mean, it's crazy. It's Diamond Album Plus. And what I can say about it, that it is worth it. It is worth every platinum album that it got. I don't think it has a bad moment in it. Every song is very well executed. Eddie Vedder's vocals are great. You do not understand everything he sings, but he sings so emotionally that it really doesn't matter. The overall sound is something big, it's deep. I don't think there's much to talk about it. It just kicks in a nut, you put it on, and it really takes you somewhere else. It's one of the best albums from the 90s. So it is a masterpiece of the genre. Last time I said that I would like to get a new album from Pearl Jam, but I didn't, because I didn't like it. So I'll just stick with 10, and you can just put it on a spaceship and send it to space. It's alright with me. There is often a discussion, what is the best grunge album? There was maybe 4 contestants. It's Pearl Jam's 10, Nirvana's Nevermind, Alice in Chains' Dirt, and the 4th one is Soundgarden Super Unknown, which is 4th album from the band, and it is a breakthrough album. People like to compare the grunge albums of the time, but I think it's quite different from Pearl Jam. Soundgarden is more experimental, it is more heavier, it is more psychedelic. The lyrics has quite different direction than Pearl Jam. So it is alright if you like one and you don't like another one. I think it's quite different albums. I prefer 10, but a lot of people prefer Soundgarden because of their complexity. It was the best-selling album from the band, and Super Unknown has won a few Grammys, I think, but it doesn't matter in rock music. It just shows that the band was quite big at the time. So it's quite a long album, it's quite a long experience. If you are interested in grunge music, Soundgarden Super Unknown is one of those highlights.
Won't you come and wash away the rain?
As I am not a big fan of Nirvana's Nevermind, I think In Utero is much better album. So if I have to choose the second best from the list, it's Super Unknown, because Alice in Chains is not my band. Nirvana and Alice in Chains, they never played in CBGB, so we will not talk about them in later episodes. So that's it for this time. I didn't get hardcore albums that I promised last time, but I definitely will, because it was one of the most important things that happened for the club, and I already have a list for maybe 4 episodes in advance, so there's a lot to talk about. I hope you liked this episode, and I hope to get back soon.